In early January of this year, disturbing rumors began to circulate around a series of fashion and dress-up apps from the early 2010s. Stargirl allowed players to live out their fashion model fantasies, buying clothes, dressing up to compete against other players, even dating and chatting with virtual boyfriends. On the surface, it seemed like a completely innocent dress-up game for young girls, and its player base quickly skyrocketed into the tens of millions. But this feature, known as Star Chat, had a disturbing side. Several ex-players came out to claim that the virtual boyfriends of Star Chat sent inappropriate messages, explicit roleplay, swear-filled insults, and even threats. These claims soon spiraled into wild rumors that Stargirl's Star Chat feature was secretly run by real people instead of bots. Reels and TikToks spreading the rumor have gained hundreds of thousands of likes in the last few weeks. So what's really going on with Stargirl? Were all of the virtual boyfriends in the game secretly real people, or is this all just an overblown hoax? Well, the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Today, let's discuss the disturbing rumors that surround Stargirl. Before we get into things, I just want to give a huge thank you to V Project for sponsoring this video. V Project is a new 3D idol game set in a dynamic universe where you can interact, perform, and connect with idols in meaningful ways. A brand new PV has just been released teasing the game and the cast of characters, so let's take a little look. First up, we have Lee. He's the leader and the ace of the group, and he's super calm and composed. You can tell that he's the dependable and reliable one. We can even see him organizing the group's travel itinerary. In the train scene, the others are leaning on his shoulders and falling asleep while he's awake, since they know they can rely on him. Nia is the visual and pretty face of the group. You can tell that he pays a lot of attention to his makeup and clothes. The first time that we're introduced to him, he's literally trying on outfits. He's also the only one in the group FaceTime absolutely serving. I love this guy so much. The visuals are absolutely gorgeous in this PV. The characters are expressive, the environments are vibrant and bright, and I love all the tiny little details they include, like all of Nia's colorful jewelry, or the fact he's drinking like an iced Americano because he's fancy like that. Lastly, there's OCT, the mangne and main dancer of the group. You can immediately tell he's the youngest. He definitely gives chaotic younger brother vibes. At the start of the PV, he literally just decides they're all gonna hop on a flight and they will just go with it. I actually noticed a shot where he's carrying a guitar case, so maybe that means we can expect a guitar performance from OCT at some point, which is hype. The visuals are gorgeous, the characters are fun and unique, and I'm so incredibly excited to see how the group performs and how their story unfolds once we get more content. Be sure to click the link in the description to check out V Project and follow Lee, Nia, and OCT's story. A huge thank you to the amazing and epic V Project for sponsoring this video, and now let's continue. The first Stargirl game was released in November of 2012 for iOS and Android by games company Animoca. Its original App Store description reads in part, quote, "Stargirl puts you in the high heels of an aspiring celebrity who's setting out to build her career as a superstar while having a ton of fun along the way. You've got the looks, but it takes more than that to be a star. Work hard to make it to the top, and you might even find yourself on the covers of the most popular fashion and lifestyle magazines. Just remember that first impressions are the most important, so be sure to only wear the trendiest outfits. Of course, any star needs an active social life, so hang out with your friends and go on dates with the hottest guys in town to find your perfect match. The sky's the limit for a rising star like you. Show everyone that you've got what it takes to be a Stargirl." It's important to note that there is not a whole lot of information on Stargirl out there. The apps are essentially defunct, they're completely unavailable on Android, and while they can still be played on iOS, the servers have long since shut down, making it impossible to progress in the game since there's an early quest that requires you to add Facebook friends. It seems that a lot of the content was added through online updates, so outfits, games, and activities are extremely limited in the iOS version I was able to access. Animoca have scrubbed Stargirl from their website, and news coverage of the game online is pretty scarce. All of this is to say I've done my best to gather all of the accurate information I can find based on reliable sources, but there are still gaps, and some parts of this video may be based on like TikTok comments or Reddit threads, which are not the most reliable sources, so yeah, take things with a grain of salt. Needless to say, the lack of concrete information on the game has made it incredibly easy for all kinds of rumors to spread. Stargirl was a huge success, and around 5 months after it hit the App Store, Animoca released a second Stargirl game, Stargirl Moda Italia, and then 5 months after that they released Stargirl Beauty Queen, and then just a month after that came Stargirl Halloween, and a month after that of course you had to have Stargirl Christmas, and then 2 months after in February came Stargirl Stargirl Valentine's hearts, and it did not stop there. It got to the point where every few months Animoca was releasing a new Stargirl game. Stargirl Colors of Spring, Stargirl Spooky Styles, Stargirl Princess Gala, and Stargirl Glam City, just to name a few others. And these weren't just updates to the base game, no, these were their own separate apps. And believe it or not, this weird multi-app thing they were doing actually worked really well. According to an official Animoca article announcing a Stargirl x Paris Hilton collab, as of 2015 the Stargirl series had over 65 million downloads, noting its popularity with female users. But it wasn't just female users, it was specifically a lot of young female users. The Stargirl series was super popular with kids and tweens with its cutesy, glittery aesthetic, dress-up elements, and accessibility on phones and tablets. Notably, when the app first launched, it was rated for ages 4 and up. It's these kids who have now grown up and are speaking out about the inappropriate and disturbing content that they saw on Stargirl. The earliest mention of the Stargirl conspiracy online comes from an r/mobile gaming Reddit post made over 2 years ago by the user TrickyRanger1044. My dark history with Stargirl. I'm not quite sure how to start this or where to even post this. I was wondering if someone had the same/similar experience as I did. It was around 2013 to 2015 when my sister and I would constantly play Stargirl. The goal of the game was to buy outfits, get famous, and get boyfriends. There was a part of the game that I remember every once in a while that doesn't sit right with me. It was a chat option where you could talk to your boyfriends and potential boyfriends, and I shit you not, they would sext you and cuss. At the time I was young and with my friends. Of course we were confused, but we didn't know better. The boyfriends were supposed to be NPCs. Plus, Stargirl was targeted at a young audience. I'm not sure what's going on with it now, but I know it's not on the App Store, and when I search up anything about the whole sexting thing, nothing comes up. If this isn't the right place to post this, tell me a better thread to post this on. I'm just really curious about this. Thank you. This post gained over 500 likes and several hundred comments, many of which backed up the OP's story and shared their own bizarre experiences with the boyfriends of Stargirl. I vividly remember it and was traumatized by it. I'm in Italy, and so I used to chat in Italian, and the boys replied in Italian too. A lot of times I asked them who they were or how old they were, and they often replied with names and ages, always 20 plus, sometimes even 40s, and even cities where they lived that exist in Italy. I thought about it often and was concerned by the fact that it is and was a game mainly for kids. The conversations were explicit and rude and also very inappropriate for the app. Yup, same. I was flirting with them and I said, I'm not good at math, but I think we have some chemistry. And the boyfriend responded something like, subtract the clothes, divide your legs, add something, multiply something. Yes, the same thing happened to me, just that I had the game in Spanish because that's my first language. And I remember asking the boyfriend I had at the time, are you real? In that chat option, and he literally said, yeah, TBH, we are just some kids, in brackets, young adults, teens, who got paid to talk to you and pretend we are their boyfriends, and I remember it scared the whole shit out of me, damn. I played in 2013, and there were real people on the Star Chats 1000%. They would say some of the freakiest shit without a shadow of a doubt these were real people. My boyfriend would ask if I'm into choking, and I said not really. They told me they were into that kind of stuff. When you changed boyfriends, you got a new person with a different personality. And these are just the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds more comments of people confirming that they too received inappropriate messages from the boyfriends on Stargirl at a very young age, which is disturbing to say the least. A common detail in these accounts is that the boyfriends in Stargirl would talk to players in their native language even if they lived in a different country or had the app's language set to English. Several different theories were brought up in this Reddit thread. Some believed that the chat feature had been hacked and flooded with vulgar messages. Others believed that the chat feature was linked to a live chat site like Omegle, citing very personal conversations where boyfriends shared their real name, age, or location. And others theorized that while Animoca claimed it was a chatbot, the boyfriend's replies were actually written by real people. It's this theory that has now taken precedence, skyrocketing to popularity in the last few weeks thanks to a viral TikTok. Rare aesthetic, playing a dress-up game as a kid only to find out your virtual boyfriends are controlled by real people. The video absolutely took off, now sitting at over 500,000 likes and thousands thousands of comments. I remember I played a similar game on my mum's phone. One day my mum uninstalled the app and never explained. When I got older, she told me that she kept getting notifications from the game, the boyfriend apparently flirting and saying inappropriate things and planning to meet up. I saw a Reddit story that a person gave the boyfriend their phone number and someone actually called them. Are you actually serious? I love this game and was deeply attached to my BF on there, and it didn't register to me that it was probably a real man. LMAO, I was like 8 and mine would ask me crazy inappropriate questions. I would ask over and over again if he was real, then I deleted the app. Thank God I was smart. The TikTok was reposted to Instagram Reels, where it gained a further 100,000 likes and even more comments. So the big question is it true? Were the quote-unquote boyfriends of Stargirl secretly run by real people pretending to be bots? The answer, in my opinion, is no. So let's debunk this. The TikToks and Reels that spread this rumor are far from reliable sources. The videos are short and don't really show a whole lot. A few screenshots of the original Reddit post and a few images from the Stargirl app, and that's it. There's no concrete proof for any of the claims in the video, and yet seemingly hundreds of thousands of people believe it. There was a period of time while researching this video that I began to doubt whether StarChat was even a real feature. The earliest App Store description for the game mentioned chatting to celebrities using StarChat, yet the only proof I could find of the feature was a single low-quality image, the one shown in the TikTok video. In the image, the user is chatting with a boyfriend called Vincent Gates, who is wearing this outfit, and the conversation goes as follows. "You look so cool. Aw, thanks, smiley face. Is that comfortable?" Very. Since the chat feature has long been removed from the actual app, I scoured countless ancient videos of kids playing Stargirl on their iPads, trawled through the App Store images, and still no tangible proof, no videos of StarChat actually working. It was bizarre. There were seemingly hundreds of people claiming that the Stargirl boyfriend said all kinds of horrendous things to them, and yet no images existed online at all. But then I found a Reddit post that had been made just a few days prior by a user called Just Someone VV Random. They shared another image of Stargirl's chat feature, and after reaching out to them, they shared a link to an old 2015 APK file for Stargirl Valentine's Hearts that still had the chat feature intact. This ended up being a huge undertaking, at least for me, because I didn't want to get a virus on my phone, so I jumped through a bunch of probably unnecessary hoops. First, I found the cheapest, most terrible Android phone I could find, so if I did download any viruses, it would be on essentially a burner phone. Then once I downloaded the Stargirl APK, I couldn't actually install it because it was too old and therefore not compatible with my phone. So then I had to download an app called Install with Options, which had to run off another app called Shizuku, which I had to get running by opening developer tools and pairing it, and then finally I could use Install with Options to bypass the SDK version and install the app. I also got some other old Stargirl apps working as well. We'll get to those later. All this effort turned out to be 100% worth it though. Stargirl Valentine's Hearts downloaded, and though it was pretty fragile and crashed at pretty much a moment's notice, I was able to open it up and play it. One of the first things I noticed was this little logo on the startup page for something called Shim Shimmy API. Put a pin in this, we'll come back to it soon. Everything about the game was exactly the same as the modern version I currently have on my iPhone, except for one icon in the menu, StarChat. It was real after all. Opening up StarChat, you have the option to message any boyfriends already registered on your phone or message someone random. The random option will randomly pick a boyfriend to chat to, with each having their own unique opening message. Most of the opening messages were pretty generic. Hey there, hello, what's up, yo, that kind of thing. A few of them were super flirty out of nowhere. Hey sweetness, what's up? Did you message the wrong guy? I don't have any friends as gorgeous looking as you. How are you? Lonely? One of the boyfriends just texted, do I know you? So, you know, owned. After sending a message, the boyfriends would type for a really long time. If I tried to send any more messages, a pop-up warned me that they were still typing. All of them inevitably replied with, hey sweetie, are you there? Seems like a bad internet connection on your end. This is the same message that Reddit user someone VV Random got when they used the APK, so it seems to be a generic connectivity error message since the games are no longer connected to the online servers. And this brings us back to that tiny little yellow logo on the launch page for Shim Shimmy API. I had seen several comments before before this point on both TikTok and Instagram mentioning that StarChat ran off of an old chatbot software called ShimShimmy, and this was confirmation. Also, as a disclaimer, I know the way it looks is SimSimmy, but from a couple of things that I've read online, the correct pronunciation is ShimShimmy, so I'm going to be pronouncing it that way. Created by Korean tech company IS Maker, ShimShimmy was a popular early chatbot that first launched in 2002. Its mascot was the titular ShimShimmy, a cute little yellow orb guy. The earliest version of the site on the Wayback Machine was almost more like a pet site. You could chat with ShimShimmy, but you could also decorate your room, use coins to buy outfits and accessories for ShimShimmy, and feed it consumables like banana milk and medicine. You could befriend other players and chat with them on the forums, and there were even site-wide competitions for the best decorated room. Despite launching all the way back in 2002, ShimShimmy didn't really get any widespread attention or media coverage outside of Asia until 2010 when the chatbot was made into an app and launched on iOS and Android. And from there, it quickly became infamous for its extremely crass language. Anti-bullying campaigners call for a ban on chatbot app ShimShimmy. This obscure Korean bot has quietly turned into a swearing machine. ShimShimmy, warning over app linked to cyberbullying. Controversial app ShimShimmy disabled in Ireland after cyberbullying warning. See, ShimShimmy had this feature where you could teach the chatbot to reply to certain phrases. If somebody says this, ShimShimmy may respond with this. A lot of these articles about cyberbullying stem from the fact that theoretically you can teach ShimShimmy to bring up real people's names or locations or kind of insult real people you know. Remember, this was an early chatbot, nowhere near as advanced as the kinds of AI chatbots that we have today. In theory, this teach feature was meant to allow ShimShimmy to learn more human ways to respond to various different prompts taught by tons of different people all over the world. But obviously, since this is the internet we're talking about, this feature was abused to hell and ShimShimmy learned every swear word and sexual expletive under the sun. ShimShimmy was controversial all throughout the 2010s, becoming well known for its crass insults, unprompted sexual roleplay, and even violent threats. But this is actually what made it appealing to so many people. It was seen as the cooler, edgier version of the lame robotic Siri. It became a pastime for kids and their friends to chat with ShimShimmy and see what crazy things it would say. The more it got into the headlines, the more people discovered and downloaded the app. ShimShimmy currently has over 100 million downloads on the Google Play Store alone. I decided to take a look at ShimShimmy for myself, but in its current state the app has turned into one of those dime a dozen AI character chat websites, so I wasn't sure how 2012 accurate it would be. Instead, I trolled through YouTube for old videos of people chatting with the original ShimShimmy bot, and it's really not hard to see the parallels to what people remember about Stargirl's StarChat feature. Random, nonsensical messages which sometimes included spelling mistakes, keyboard smashes, and real-life names, extremely graphic sexual comments, constant swearing, and even threats of physical violence. It's these typing similarities and the ShimShimmy logo on the launch page that led me to believe that StarChat ran directly off of the ShimShimmy API and thus adopted all of its crass quirks. People had come to expect these kinds of weird, vulgar messages from ShimShimmy, but many Stargirl players wouldn't have had any idea the game was running off of that bot, so their virtual boyfriend's crass, violent comments were shocking and frightening. As a disclaimer, since there's no official statement from Animoca nor any official screenshots, there's no way to 100% prove the vulgar messages were because of ShimShimmy. I don't want to completely rule out the possibility of some kind of hack or server security problem on Animoca's end, but in my opinion, the whole situation was due to ShimShimmy. The evidence just lines up way more than any other theory. I saw quite a few comments throughout my research of people saying that these couldn't have been bots, they had to be humans because of the way they typed. They made spelling mistakes, they typed in lowercase rather than using proper capitals or grammar, they made random nonsensical comments or used names. And seeing these ShimShimmy chats, I totally get what they mean. If I was a kid playing a dress-up game and the chat feature looked like this, I would be convinced it was a real person too. I've also seen a few comments saying AI didn't exist back then, or there were no chatbots this advanced in the 2010s as proof that it had to be humans, and this is just blatantly untrue. I mean, come on bro, this one comment has over 4,000 likes. While they were far less advanced than they are now, chatbots were definitely a thing. This whole rumor reminds me a lot of Talking Angela. A couple years ago I made a video about the Talking Angela app and the prolific rumors that surrounded it during the early 2010s. The rumor went that if you looked closely you could see creepy men spying on you through her eyes, and those same men would use Angela's chat feature to send creepy, perverted messages. Images began circulating online of Angela's eyes with shady figures in them. Screenshots of disturbing, inappropriate messages began popping up, and soon social media and news outlets were flooded with articles about the disturbing truth behind Talking Angela. The game's App Store page was flooded with kids recounting hearing a man's voice come out of their iPad speakers, or how Angela told them she would come to their house. There was even a missing persons flyer that circulated when a child supposedly went missing after playing Talking Angela. All of this proved to be a huge hoax, of course, a widespread moral panic among parents that was made worse by creepypasta-loving 13-year-olds who kept spreading and adding on to the story. But honestly, it was also a really early example of the many moral and ethical concerns raised by AI, especially in the context of kids games. There were no creepy men in Angela's eyes, no secret stalkers, but she still was a chatbot with all of the flaws that chatbots have. She asked personal questions to get to know the user. She sometimes said things that were strange or could be interpreted as inappropriate, especially by young kids and their parents. When developers give kids access to AI bots that generate conversations, they lose a lot of control over what kind of content those kids are going to be consuming, which is pretty dangerous if you're making an app specifically marketed at a younger demographic. The chat feature was removed from Talking Angela, likely because the developers realized its potential for harm, or at the very least moral panics over misunderstood messages. Stargirl was even worse. Though there are no screenshots of anything the boyfriend specifically said, according to ex-players' accounts, there was profanity, violence, and even threats. The conspiracy that there were secretly people controlling the boyfriends of StarChat is dark, but the truth is honestly equally as terrifying. A complete lack of care on the part of the developers, who exposed potentially thousands of kids to inappropriate content at best and downright scary, graphic content at worst. This kind of stuff can be shocking and traumatizing for young kids to see, and for many ex-players who have shared their experiences online, the memories of seeing such content have lingered into adulthood. It's that shocking, scary feeling as a kid of stumbling onto something that you weren't meant to see, something that you don't really understand, something that just feels wrong. I've been there myself many times as a young kid, stumbling into some insane internet content, and it can be a really scary and frightening thing for a young mind to comprehend. This is why I think it's so incredibly irresponsible what Animoca did. Marketing your app as a cutesy pink dress-up game for young girls, and then putting a completely unregulated AI that learns from thousands of users across the world and is literally known for being crass and vulgar, is just so incredibly thoughtless and irresponsible. And because of that carelessness, tons of kids who just wanted to play an innocent dress-up game got scarred. Animoca is super into the metaverse AI sphere now, surprise surprise, so just remember, this is who we're supposedly meant to trust with the ethical nightmare that is AI. Animoca eventually removed the StarChat feature. There's no clear timeline of when this happened, but from a few different accounts I read online, ex-players tend to put it about 2013 to 2014. Again, these are based off of a few random internet comments, so take it with a grain of salt. I've trawled through all of Animoca's old blogs and their website, but I can't find any sign of an announcement of this removal, nor any accountability taken for this huge misstep. I'm glad that eventually StarChat was removed and replaced with the basic pre-written text system in the current game, which is how it always should have been in my opinion. Stargirl is incredibly nostalgic for so many people, so I'm glad that it was made a lot safer and more appropriate for everyone to enjoy, you know, without the insanity of shimmy ruining all the fun. With the StarChat rumor debunked, I still think it's worth actually diving into the Stargirl games themselves. Knowing how iconic and nostalgic these games were for so many people, I really wanted to check them out myself, and honestly, they were pretty weird. Upon downloading the app, Stargirl plunges you right in the deep end. The only tutorial we're offered is a simple screen that says about this game, becoming a star, dressing up your avatar, dating celebrities, and that's it. The main hub area of the game is a long street that you can scroll up and down to visit the various shops. There's a mall, a job center where you can use energy to complete different jobs to get money, a cafe where you can meet and date boys from around town, and a nightclub where you can meet and date real-world celebrities. Everyone's here. Cristiano McDonald, Johnny Depp, Nyla Boren, Brad Pitt, Jarvin Braver, Rupert Downer Jr. They even have Mr. Bean. This game has everything. The mall is filled with various shops for clothing and accessories, many of which can can only be unlocked at higher levels, and many of which were inaccessible in my playthroughs. Unfortunately, including this cosplay store I would have loved to investigate. I'm assuming this is either because the servers are down and thus newer content can't be accessed, or because I was too low level, or maybe just because the app is kinda broken. One of the clothing stores was a straight up lingerie store where you could buy matching bras and underwear, some of which were lacy and strappy and kind of way too much for the cutesy girls fashion game aesthetic Stargirl went for. Of course, older teenagers and adults play these games as well, but just looking at this app you can tell most of its audience were young girls. At the coffee shop you can meet guys and make them your boyfriend by talking to them and giving them treats in order to get their heart gauge to 100%. This essentially boils down to buying them like 20 cookies while you awkwardly shuffle towards each other until he finally decides he wants to go out with you. You know, typical date stuff. My first crush was Brian South, a gym trainer who was, quote, always around. After you get a boyfriend, you can invite them back to your house where they'll give you 3 presents over the course of several hours, often either money or various outfits and accessories. You can speed this process up using gems, of course, since this is a pay-to-win game, but this can get pretty steep. My second boyfriend was actor Chris Hartz, who said, "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen." Maybe coming on a little strong, I mean, we just met. A helpful pop-up reminds us to remember to check our messages. Famous stars would send you message to ask you out on a date. Indeed, throughout the game you can get text messages from your agent offering you jobs and roles, as well as celebrities asking you out on dates. I got a lot of messages from Tom Cruise. Sorry, I mean Tom Cruise. Nice to meet you. I'm Tom and you are gorgeous. I have 2 tickets to Mission Possible 5. Are you free for dinner and a show? Tom was pretty insistent, but nowhere near as insistent as the Cupid character. I had like 4 games going at once and he messaged me in every single one. Cupid's date is also incredibly funny because you need to buy wine and grapes to win his affection, so the implication here is that you're basically just getting this dude drunk as hell. Once you've been on a successful date with a guy, he'll send you an ominous message simply saying, "I am now your boyfriend." I got this glitch where it would send twice, so these messages came off as more unhinged and stalkery than they were probably meant to. In Stargirl, you're not limited by morality. You're encouraged to have multiple boyfriends and essentially collect them like Pokemon, getting together with them, collecting their 3 gifts, and then moving on. Unfortunately, I hit a wall with the nightclub quest. The nightclub is where you meet celebrities to date, but you need to team up with other players from Facebook for this one, sort of like a multiplayer boyfriend boss fight. Since the servers were offline, it was impossible to actually add anyone, so this is where the game stopped for me. So I decided to check out the other Stargirl games under the foolish presumption that maybe they'd have something different to offer. This is when I discovered that all of the games are literally exactly the same. They all have the same street, the same music, the same clothing, the same minigames, the same boyfriends, everything. Sure, there are a few minor changes here and there. In Stargirl Valentine's Hearts, flower petals fall from above and there are heart-shaped balloons tied to everything. In Stargirl Princess Gala, there was snow, and in Stargirl Colors of Spring, eggs and bunnies decorated the street. But aside from these minute visual differences, the games were all virtually identical. I know from the Stargirl wiki that there were various themed events with new clothing, accessories, and boyfriends, but I couldn't find any trace of them, likely due to a lack of online server connectivity. At this point, I finally realized how Animoca were able to pump out these games every few months or even every month. They were literally just repackaging the exact same game with very minor visual differences. This was all very baffling, and honestly I could not find an answer for why they did this. I would have assumed the game would have been just as popular if they added all the new content as updates to the base game instead of making an identical new game every time. It's super strange. If anyone has some insight on this practice, please share below. I don't remember any big game franchises doing this, but this seemed to really work for Stargirl. Maybe I'm missing some context that someone back in the day who played it regularly would know. If so, please chime in below. I really want to understand what was going on here. There are also a few Stargirl spin-off games that actually bring new content to the table and are therefore worth talking about as well. I had to download the old APKs for these games because they weren't available on the App Store, if you're wondering why the footage is like that. Tiffany Alvid Dreamworld is a Stargirl spin-off based on singer Tiffany Alvid, who frequently went viral on early YouTube with her popular song covers and garnered over 3 million subscribers. Tiffany Alvid Dreamworld was her first game, and being a collaboration with Animoca, is it any surprise that it's basically just a repackaged version of the same Stargirl game they'd been making like 20 times? Unlike the other games we've covered, this version does have a few noticeable differences though. The character creation screen has new items, items, including a cap, Converse sneakers, and several Tiffany Albert themed shirts. Tiffany Albert herself actually introduces us to the game and can be found as an in-game character on the main street in different shops. The dating feature is completely gone. You can still go to the coffee shop to meet people, but the end goal is to befriend them and add them to your band, not date them. I met Yanksy, a graffiti artist, and when I finally won him over, still with cookies for some reason, we performed a platonic high five. Similarly, instead of the nightclub where you meet and date celebrities, there's now a live music venue where you play Tiffany Albert music to attract new bandmates. Most of the clothing items were the exact same aside from a handful of Tiffany Albert shirts and two new but sparsely stocked stores called Rockstar and Gorgeous. Everything else was the exact same as the other games, same main street, same minigames, same clothing, just with a unique and very 2010s collab twist. The app crashed a lot, and whenever it did, I got this pop-up that just said Tiffany isn't responding, like she died. I really wanted to get Stargirl Farm, a Stargirl branded knockoff of Farmville, working, but unfortunately it needed internet connectivity to even log in, and with the servers down that just wasn't possible. It's truly gut-wrenching because even the launch screen by itself was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. It's so ridiculous. Stargirl Boutique is a pretty basic business management simulator type game. The first instruction in the tutorial is one that anyone who works in retail will know. Taking care of a customer is easy. All you have to do is drag them to the appropriate counter. There's not much to say about this one. You run your own fashion shop, you level up and earn coins to hire more employees or better resources, etc, etc. We do get a little Stargirl lore drop in this game. We find out that the blonde girl in all of the thumbnails and promo art for the series is called Ella. We're even shown some of her backstory. She didn't know what to do with her life until a friend suggested modeling, and then she became a model. Honestly, we need to get game theory in here. That lore is a bit too complex for me to wrap my head around. Lastly, my personal favorite spin-off game, Stargirl Calculator. Several stunning background renders to choose from, customizable fonts, and all the functions you could need to calculate any sum you could think of. Stargirl is no stranger to controversy. Even when it first came out, it came under fire for promoting sexism and setting a bad example for young girls. The Daily Mail was one of the first to cover the app back in 2014 with an article titled "Controversial Smartphone App for Children Aged 12 Promotes Gold Digging, Bondage-Inspired Lingerie, and Flirting for Rewards." The article read in part, quote, "Players are told they have three main career options: singer, actress, model, and encourage them to shop till you drop, flirt and go on dates and find the man of your dreams. They even complete in flirting challenges to win the affections of grown male avatars." Reviewers took to Amazon to air their disgust with the Stargirl app, with one describing it as stupid and vapid, and another saying, "Very inappropriate. Flirting, girls wearing underwear? I deleted it after a day." And honestly, it's true. For a game that was rated ages 4 and up on the App Store, it had a lot of adult-leaning content. The dedicated lingerie store in the mall, all of the random newspaper headlines that pop up proclaiming your character as the sexiest woman in the world, the nightclub flirting game. There's definitely something to be said about how the only female characters in the game, other players, are framed as competition, while the men can only be won over with expensive outfits and lavish offerings of, cookies and wine. The optics definitely aren't great, but also it was kind of a different time, and also as a kid I fucked heavy with games like this, so I honestly can't even judge. But I also can't fault parents for being concerned. After this media firestorm, Animoca raised the minimum age to play the app from 4+ to 12+, which realistically probably did next to nothing, but hey, at least it was something. The whole situation was so of its time, parents pointing the finger at virtual girls showing too much chest when there was a very real insidious problem within the game that was glazed over because of a combination of tech illiteracy from parents and overzealous excitement about new exciting AI technology from tech companies. Thank God we live in 2026 where that would never happen. You don't need me to illustrate the parallels between this situation and all of the incredibly messed up AI platforms that tons of kids are getting wrapped up into these days. The sheer scale and awfulness of AI now and how carelessly companies wield it honestly makes Stargirl look sweet and naive in comparison. So I guess the lesson is, We didn't learn our lesson. Oh, and also there probably weren't real people behind the Stargirl boyfriends. I think we can pretty much put that one to rest. Myth busted. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed the topic. I was getting a ton of messages to cover this video, and so I checked it out and I was really interested in it and I thought it would make a good video. Like I said throughout the video, downloading the APKs is kind of a fraught experience, so please be careful if you decide to download any of them. Honestly, in my opinion, it's not worth it for what these games are. They're definitely interesting to look at, and I was glad that I was able to cover them for this video, but if you're just wanting to do it in your spare time, they're kind of not worth potentially getting a virus. But if you decide to do it, just please be careful because I don't want you to get a virus. If you were someone who played a lot of Stargirl back in the day, like if you were a veteran ex-player or you were around during when StarChat was available, I would absolutely love to hear your comments. I'm so curious to hear any first-hand accounts of actually using the chat feature. A lot of people played after it was removed, so if you actually used this chat feature while it was online, I would love to hear about it. I find this whole thing so weird and fascinating. Yeah, please chime in below, and I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye! A huge thank you to my Garfield overlords over on Patreon: Xavier Arajo, Jenna, Loljix, Trazamouse, Tony Terras, Usurpius, Eminem, Bunzo, Sophie Jane Dewberry, Simon, Katrina Likes 5e Stuff, Say Marie Brayley, Durzo Blint, Hazy, Zoe Mars, Matt LRJ, Michelle Olsen, Kia J. Parker, A Riddle Wrapped in an Enigma Hidden by a Question Mark, Awesome Sauce, Magdalena, Bins, Astrium Vortex, Tonla, Helm Hamburger Hand, Leopold the Rabbit, Mrs. Sylve, Ocean Gremlin, Mazapan Eating Duck, Booskaboo, Eden Cassidy, Jesse Chisholm, Curvish Sundown, Blue Wolf, Blogbag, and Doug. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. It means the world. If you want to join these guys over on Patreon, the link will be in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for supporting me, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!